Welcome back to the Roll the Credits podcast, where Rob and I have rolled the credits on another film. Rob, what film have you decided to share with me today?
Today I've decided to share with Liam House of Flying Daggers. It's one of my favourite films of all time, and I know he's heard about it over the years, and I thought, you know what, we'll get him to watch that one and see what he thinks.
Yeah, it's a film I've heard. I thought it's just always a film that you've heard. The name is out there. It's got a reputation of being a good film, but I've never ever seen it. Always sort of wanted to, but yeah, just never got round to it. Like all these films you're sharing with me. So what would you describe the plot of the film? Let's give people. Well, I'm assuming people have watched the film if they're listening, but what's the general plot?
Well, the plot of the film is all about love and deception. Really, it's about you got three main characters, and it's like a love triangle, but in the midst of all of that, there's a resistance movement against the general of the territory, and there's the whole conspiracy sort of to bring the general out of hiding. There's lots of things going on, but the core of the experience is definitely a love story.
Yeah, I was massively surprised when I watched this film, and I love that I can watch films with you, Rob, because a lot of people find it difficult, but you don't give anything away, you don't ruin anything, unless I already know it through just external factors of the world.
Because for me, when I'm watching something with someone that I've already seen, and I know there's holy shit moments in it or something like that, I get enjoyment out of watching them have the same realization that I did, and it's just I can. It in a way, it's even better for me to have already seen it.
Yeah.
Because then I could just stand back and watch the realization happen.
Yeah, but it's not even like the big plot twists or anything like that. Just like this film, House of Flying Daggers, the name alone, you're just thinking a top-end martial arts action thrill film. And that's what I thought it was. That's all I've known it to be. And you get into this, and you get the setting, and it's building up, and there's an underground rebellion with the House of Flying Daggers. You think it's going to be a rebellion war action film, and then you get into it, and it's just a love story. It's the rebellion, the setting of the film is purely that. The rebellion is a setting. The plot is a love story, and it did that incredibly well. I was expecting just to be watching action and the rebellion and an uprising, and it's just a love story. But it's the perfect way to trick your grandfather into watching a love story.
Well, yeah, because I mean, even as a love story, it has just as many action films as you'd kind of expect in a normal action film.
Yeah, there's a ridiculous number of action in there, maybe more than another action film. Loads of fighting scenes, but never did it feel like, while watching it, that is what defined the film. The whole focus.
I also think when you're watching it, it kind of all of the action scenes sort of flow they don't feel forced. Like some action films, it's fucking hell, every 5 minutes we're throwing something at you, and it doesn't, well, for me anyway, it doesn't really have that jarring nature to it. So all of the action sequences sort of happen in a nice flow, I find.
Yeah, the plot of the film, I think, is brilliant. The story and the plot is fantastic, but I did struggle with this film. I don't know what it is. I love the plot that existed, but something wasn't sitting right with me the whole way through, and I was really surprised. It felt almost. Another thing that you didn't give away is there's a lot of fantasy in this film. There's a lot of I thought it was a traditional martial arts film. There's a lot of fantasy elements in it.
I didn't know that you didn't know that going into it, to be fair. I thought, considering that we'd talked about that in the same breath of Crouching Tiger and a few other things, I thought that you knew what the wuxia genre is. But I've now learned that you are a complete novice to it.
Yeah, I wasn't aware at all. And at first, even the bit now, I still really struggled with it because it didn't feel natural to me. Like, there was the martial arts, and the film looks beautiful, it's choreographed beautiful, there's great cinematic shots, and the story was so well done. And then these sort of fantasy points to just were just there, and it didn't feel like it connected with the rest of the film too well for me. It just felt a bit out of place, a little bit just like it was just
Yeah.
sprinkled in on top.
See,
I don't.
I know like your personality and how your mindset, so I can completely understand where you're coming from for you, because you're the kind of person that needs to have like some sort of reasoning to things and like a bit of a logic to it, whereas like the Chinese fantasy sort of like genre is very much just like whimsical. Like it's like a giant showcase within the story, and I can imagine that you were probably watching it like, what the fuck's going on? Like, why are they doing this?
Yeah, it was, and it's not like I don't like fantasy. I think you're right. As long as if there's fantasy, I still like there to be a, an understanding of why that's there. Yeah, I've seen lots of fantasy films. I love fantasy films, but it just seemed that like that. You know, it's a good action scene. The story's really good, and all of a sudden, like when you're in the bamboo forest, and just all these knives come out of nowhere, like remote controlled heat seeking missiles, and they're flowing down like they're alive beings, and it's all a bit.
See,
I
like,
think the CGI doesn't help as well. I don't think
see,
the CGI is great. I know it's 2003, but it just felt weird, and there's loads of moments like that where it just didn't feel like it fitted too well for me.
You say you love fantasy and all that, and I definitely know that you do. But I think there's a difference in that when you're watching like a Western fantasy film, it's sort of at pains to show you that it's a fantasy film, and you sort of know that it's fantasy going into it. Whereas, like this film, for example, is very understated, and it takes a while for those fantasy elements to kick in. It's just not in your face. So
yeah, it's almost as if
you have a different expectation.
It's not even like it is a fantasy film. It's like such a small part of it. It's just randomly here and there. There's just something a bit weird the way that they're jumping around, they're floating around, and things can twist and turn and move in the air. Like it's like unexpected. Everything's so normal and in the in the realms of the world that we know. Then all of a sudden it just happens. And it's like, wait, what the fuck? Why did that just happen? It just felt weird. And the first few times it happened, I went, that's a bit silly. But as the film went on, I sort of got the idea. And as you're saying, it's the genre and the way of things, and it's not unique to this film. I sort of got used to it, but it just helped. It always sort of gave me a rough edge to connecting with the film, just because it was going really well, and then it had just this weird element to it that I didn't quite felt fit the rest of the film.
Yeah, I think
which
it's
is probably
definitely
controversial.
I think it's definitely an element of you not having any experience of like these kind of films before. You know, like the wuxia genre is like its entire like own thing, and obviously there are like action films that have a sort of fantasy element in China, like much in the same way as they are in America, when you have like guys that could shoot like 20,000 bullets and not reload and all that. In the like feudal like China sort of thing, like it's very much like the. I think we have talked about like how it's like a dance, like the choreography is like a dance, and it's all about like a spectacle and an event, and like showing like some like crazy like sequences rather than like everything having like a reason to be what it is. And I just think like once you get your head around that, and going into like the next like set of wuxia films that we watch, I think you'll gain a better appreciation, because you'll go into it knowing that like I'm just going to be wowed. Like there's going to be things that happen in this film that I'm not going to have any explanation for, but I'll just enjoy the moment, sort of thing. Whereas this one, you needed to have that reasoning in your head.
Yeah, I guess so, and that's the thing. Maybe after we journey a bit more into this sort of genre and see these films, I know we want to watch Hero down the line. We want to watch Crouching Tiger. Like maybe my opinion will change as I journey through these types of films, and it'll be interesting to see if after watching a few more, how I feel about this film then. So I'm looking forward to get because I still enjoyed the film. It just something rubbed me up the wrong way. But maybe I just need to open my eyes a bit more. Now I understand that it's there in the first place, and that's the setting of these films.
Mm.
It's maybe my opinion would change. I don't know.
Yeah,
But,
I definitely like. I wouldn't say like you need to open your eyes because I feel like that's sort of saying that you're ignorant. I just think you need to relax your need for a reason of things.
Yeah, I mean, I don't sort of mean open my eyes. I just sort of mean, I just because I had no idea
No, I know what
it
you're
was a
saying,
part of
but
the film. Yeah,
I feel like it under like it to that turn of phrase. I think is doesn't suit like your reaction to the film, if you know what I mean.
yeah, I see what you mean. It just felt a bit weird as I wasn't expecting it, and everything else of the film is so normal. It feels like a normal film. Like there wasn't any other sort of fantasy. Like it wasn't fantasy to the people, the world, and the characters, and the way they talk and interact, and the story. It was just dabbled here and there. And I just thought, why is that there?
It's just like a sprinkle on top, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, and it was just, and for me, like I can't stand coriander. It was like a bit of coriander that just giving me that weird taste in my mouth. Like, why have you put that in there? It was so nice. And it's not that it was horrible. It just didn't seem to make sense. I don't know. But yeah, as we said, maybe as I now understand the genre and see more of these films and develop with these films, I'll have a bit of a change because that's the problem. The film was so good. I feel the story was great. It's not maybe a unique story, but it was done brilliantly. Again, yeah, there's a rebellion and bad people in control of the country, and there's trying to lure them out. But it was just so good, the story and the twists and turns in it. Like some I was semi-expecting, some I wasn't, but they were so well done, and they weren't like a dramatized big reveal. It just happened. It was the story. It's what happened. So like at the start when she's doing what's the name of the game? I've already forgotten the name of the game. The Echo game, and it was ridiculous. Like even if she's not blind, which obviously that's the twist, but even having full sight, there's no way you're putting on that crap.
That's like one of my favourite sequences in the film. But I know you said you hate dancing, so I was like, oh, I really like this bit, but you hate dancing.
Oh, that's another thing people will learn about me. I just can't stand dance. I find it. I don't know. I just find dancing boring. It's just
I don't know.
Waiting about.
I generally, I couldn't give a shit about dancing, but I just think it's such a cool sequence.
But the sequence is cool. I wouldn't. It was choreographed as a dance, but there's a game and story to it going on. So I still enjoyed it, but it was at that moment like, there's no way she's blind, and there's just a few elements in there that made me think she's not blind. Even at that point, and I almost said to Rob as we were watching it, "She's not blind, is she, Rob? She's not blind." But I thought I'm not.
Well, I mean, like the people listening won't know, but we were watching it with my my fiance. And there's a bit where she's running through the woods. And Liv says, Rob, this is one thing about this film, how she can run through those woods, but she's meant to be blind. And I'm just sitting here like, well, if only you fucking knew.
Yeah. I didn't want to say anything because I thought maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm being insensitive. I don't know. I'll just watch the film and see what happens. But yeah, so that twist I sort of was expected, but because I was like so focused on that the whole way through, I'm like, she's not blind. I was looking for clues to that she's not, and there were a few. But then you get to the point where they get captured and they're sitting there in front of the House of Flying Daggers, and it's revealed that she's not blind. I was like, I do it, great. But then they pull in the captain, Leo.
Yeah.
And he's with them. I don't know why I didn't expect it. I feel like it was just so well done as well, so casually dropped in. It was as if, it's just a twist of the story.
It sort of takes you by surprise as much as it takes Jim by surprise.
Yeah, and looking back now, there's a couple of hints to it, but it was so well done. Like I just thought, oh, it's great. And then not only that, you go outside, and then he has the whole relationship with May that I wasn't expecting it. And then there's the twist, and then you find out it's actually a love triangle. And then you think back to the meeting between Leo and Jin, and he's saying be careful with her and this and that sort of whole conversation is the clues really, but you didn't know it at the time. I was more focused on the blind aspect.
When he's like. You should be careful of her and stuff like that. And then you sit and thinking, like, how the fuck would he know any of this if he'd only just met her and all that?
Yeah, but it didn't even cross my mind at the time for some reason. I thought, am I being stupid?
No, it's like you say, you sort of mind so preoccupied with all the other things going on.
Yeah, especially with the troops sent by the general that he genuinely had to kill.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, things are taking a turn there. Is he gone one step too far now?
And that must have been like where Leo. Like off screen, he completely went out of his hands, so he had to kill just as much as Jin had to kill him.
Yeah, I think that's where Leo, obviously throughout the film, gets and you see Major at the end. At the end, you realise it's happening, but he's bubbling under the surface. He's not liking the relationship Jin and May are having, and as he proper comes out in the end, but. You only realise at the end these things happening. But...
I was just thinking, like, as you've just been talking, I'm thinking, obviously, like, throughout the film, May's, like, pretending to be blind and all that, right? But I bet that must have been really awkward and hard for the actor to film, because in those scenes, she has to, like, blankly stare at nothing, but also put on a good acting display at the same time. And I was thinking, like, to be able to do both things at once, like you've got to have some sort of like.
I feel like that played in a favour because I watched it, and there's certain things she was doing that was making me think if she was acting it well, then I could tell she's not blind. But I don't think she was acting it well, being blind. But then, she was doing well, but not perfect. There was like hints, which obviously it's difficult. It's impossible to imagine.
Well, like I say, but
it played in her favour because she wasn't actually blind, so not being 100% perfect is right.
I'm not saying like she did like an amazing job or anything like that. I think it was an adequate
she
job.
Did a good job, but it's just impossible to.
I just think to actually like. Do that acting role must be really like kind of demanding in a way because you have to like focus on different things, but you're also like trying to act out this love story like and do all the like the romantic scene, but you can't actually look at him or look away. I can imagine that being quite hard to do.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah, she did a good job with that. Yeah, definitely.
But you had an issue with the depth of the characters, didn't you?
Well, I just felt like the plot of the story, top drawer quality. That's the problem I had with this film. Some things I thought were excellent 10 out of 10s, and other things I felt were like 5 out of 10s. And there was that's another reason why I felt hard to collect the film because so many things were done brilliantly, and then some things just felt weird. And the characters. Where I feel the characters in general just lacked depth. There wasn't really anything to them other than the story that was happening. The story was great, but the characters themselves were just, I don't know, depthless. There wasn't anything to them, and
I could agree with you on Jin not really having much depth because he starts off the film as being the playboy type in the brothel and. For a good portion of the film, he really is still that playful type. It's only really towards like the final third of the film where like he starts becoming like more of a caring figure to May and like, less of a jokester and whatnot, and more of like a I'm going to get shit done sort of thing. And so I can kind of I see what you're saying with him, but I personally think that Leo has depth to the character that isn't massively stated. Like there's conversations where like he talks about how he's been undercover for like 3 years and all he's done is think about her and you know that them two have like a relationship and he's always longed for her and it's not. I'm not saying it's the most brilliant depth that you could have to a character, but I think there is some depth to his character more than the other two, for sure.
More than the other two, but I still just felt it was a bit weird. I think it's just the fact the characters I felt, I don't know the best way to put it, but they're almost childish. It all felt a bit maybe like teenage high school romances.
And I think that I think it is written to be that way, but I can understand why it doesn't connect with you as much as probably it could.
Well, it's just the seriousness of the story, the rebellion, and and understand, well, with the twist and I think because you don't know the twist as well coming up, it was a bit weird, where you think he's trying to start a relationship, make him open up so they can lure out, in the end, the leader of the Daggers. And then I'm thinking, well, she's getting on this quick, and they're falling in love in quotation marks really quickly. It just felt so high school.
But I mean, people do fall in love at first sight. Obviously, she sort of first smell, I suppose. But
well, she's not blind, so I guess it was first smell. Jesus Christ!
I don't know. I don't know what would it be for first by hearing of the person?
It's so vain, Rob. God, you base everything off smell. Nothing to do with personality. Yeah.
But I don't know. You say the plot is so good and so strong, but I kind of feel like if the characters have no depth, then the plot wouldn't have any depth to it to be as strong as you say it is. So I feel like it comes back to what you're saying about you're conflicted on every aspect of the film. Because I feel like you can't have one without the other generally. I can't really think of many films where I can generally say the plot's really good, but the characters aren't good. I don't know. I've never thought of a film being able to say that personally.
I know, that's why it's weird, and I'm sure people are going to be listening to sick of this guy. That's not what he's talking about. He's a fucking idiot. But I don't know. They just seemed plain and high schooly and ridiculous. But what do you think? I don't know. But it's just the way the twists and turns were done, and the things that happened between the start and the end, leading up to each twist. Like the sequences are great. The story, and the journey's great. It's just the characters themselves I thought were just a bit plain. I don't know. It's something. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but it was. They just felt a bit empty in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's possibly a byproduct of the way the film's designed, in that it's sort of a love story within the whole deception type thing. There's not a lot of build up to quite a few of the stuff at the start of the film. It just sort of throws you in. Whereas I think maybe for you, if you'd have had maybe an extra half an hour before we got to the brothel point where each of the characters were established, you probably might have appreciated the characters depth more, but I also think it probably will ruin the whole nature of the film.
Yeah, but then I feel like second viewing, maybe I would get more out of it as well, because once you realise the twist of first of all she's not blind, and second of all that her and Leo has this quite a deep relationship that's happened. Like they've been in a relationship for years and been apart, and so that scene where they're doing the Echo game dance, I've forgotten the name again, and he's laughing and giggling and she's got a smile on her face and it's all amazing. How's this blind girl doing this? And you realise on first viewing you're not laughing and smiling for the same reasons they are. They know each other. They know she can see. That's so well done. And maybe if I watch it again, I'll see so much more that I missed because I didn't realise the twist that come ahead.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, I've been watching it for 20 years, so I'm coming at it from a totally different viewpoint from you.
Yeah, while watching it, I just thought it's just so bland and it's so empty, but there are hints on the way through that sort of show that maybe if I knew all the twists from the start, it's better. So yeah, I feel like I need to give. If I watch it twice, I might get more out of it for that aspect. But
moving on to go on.
Well, no, I want to bring this up, and it might be me, it might be a cultural thing, but I think the thing that didn't help the cultural bit was the love story bit. You know, when they're getting down and they're kissing, and it's meant to get romantic. It just kept pulling me out the immersion. I know you know what I'm going to say because I brought it up in the film. What was going on? Like, why can't anyone in this film kiss? And maybe I'm weird. Maybe I've been doing it wrong my whole life. But to me, it felt like that they've just had injections in their mouth at the dentist, so they lose all feeling in it, and then they're trying to kiss each other, and it's like watching old people with their false teeth taken out trying to kiss, but they can't quite feel their mouths, and they didn't know where to go, and he's doing it at first, but then she tries to kiss him later.
I was thinking about this, and based on from when you said it, and I can't. So I can't remember at this point, but I think she kisses him first in the proper sense of like the moment, and I wonder because at that point, at that point she is still pretending to be blind. So is she?
Okay.
So
she genuinely can't find his.
I mean, you know what? It could be a small
offensive.
It could be a small detail. You don't know.
No, because that's the thing. She starts off first, and then they eventually stop. But it's all weird. But then there's a moment where he's trying to kiss her.
Maybe he's copying what she's doing.
Oh right, didn't want her to feel bad, so she thought, "Oh, I'll just pretend it's right."
I will admit that that the kissing technique, shall we say, is a bit juvenile, a bit 16-year-old in this.
I don't think even 16-year-olds be that bad. I feel like you'll be better even later when
I don't know. When I watched it,
weird.
it made me feel like as if like like you said, fucking willing in between us. Where he has no experience with a woman, so it's just like. But I mean, to be fair, there is actually no backstory to say that they've had experience with a woman. So I mean, you could go down that route.
He says he's a bit of a ladies' man.
Well, I mean, I could say I was a fucking ladies' man when I was 10 years old.
What? That's a bit weird. I think you might want to reword that.
Oh no!
Ladies' man when you were 10 years old. I was sitting there on my Game Boy playing Pokemon. Mate.
I was setting up the girls I was, but you know, each to their own. But yeah, anyone could have could make up that shit. But I will level with you that it's probably one of the weirder aspects of the film, but we did discuss that maybe it was a cultural thing, and we are fully aware of it.
There's a cultural thing missing. Maybe I'm being sensitive, and there's something I don't know. But it's like the CGI bits, not the CGI bits. Some of the fantasy bits that just appeared out of nowhere. They just, for me, felt a little bit out of place at first, and then the kissing just felt weird. So, like at various points throughout the film, sprinkled out sporadically, it's just things that's a bit weird, and it sort of pulled me out of the immersion. So I think that on top of some of the weird fantasy bits, and then some of the CGI didn't really look great. And I know it's 20 years ago, but it just
again,
sort of pulled me out a bit.
I think you may have some rose tinted glasses on, just like CGI from 20 years ago. Because yes, we like stuff like the Matrix and whatnot. It still looks good to this day.
I know they had bigger budgets and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, the CGI in this is very much a side thing.
But I think because the CGI was used for the fantasy elements, and the fantasy elements in their own were a bit weird for me, it just amplified it for me. Like, it wasn't CGI used for things that weren't odd for me.
Like, if you go about 20 years ago, I think the general budget for a Chinese film was much lower,
Hollywood level.
Even compared to Chinese films now, I think it was very much in a similar way to Japan. Japan at the same time was just being allowed to sort of flex its muscle within Japan itself, the industry. And I think China was the same. So you have to sort of judge it in the context of that. But for me, it doesn't impact me at all as it is while watching the film.
Well, I think it's because it was already being used for the bits I felt were a bit out of a place and didn't intertwine with the everything else of the film being sort of normal and set in the real world. That it sort of just amplified the weirdness of the fantasy stuff that I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting.
I mean, I know you really hated the falling snow at the end.
Well, yeah, I mean, I understand. If it looks good, I can see it being really cool how it shifts and turns. But it just looks so bad, and maybe you were saying that it's the start of Blu-ray technology, and it could have been a really bad disc, the transfer and
Yeah,
stuff.
like
But it just
it
looks
is.
so bad. There's meant to be this big epic fight at the end, and I'm like, fuck it, that snow's bad.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that it's real. Like the actual snow, maybe not the CGI like
No,
falling bits, but I'm fairly certain that the the actual snow bit when it transitions, I'm sure it's fucking real.
I don't know. Like it's not hard to get fake snow in.
No, but I don't know. Like for me, it doesn't look like fake snow, but you say it does. So I'm not 100% sure, but we did have a little bit of a discussion about this where there are some murmurings over the years that like crew have said that when they were filming it, like the snow was accidental and it did actually just all transition that way during
There's
when they were
no way
filming.
snow like it goes from that to full on snow blizzard in that time
Yeah,
and
but
that deep and the colours of the
if
autumn
they're
forest.
filming multiple takes though,
Yeah.
like if say they were filming for like a full like 6 hours of shooting like different like choreographed techniques and stuff like that, the probably you wouldn't notice it in the edit of the film, obviously, but they obviously transitioned it to sort of make it a one big like spectacle. But
Mm.
apparently it was like falling down quite heavy on that day of shooting, like,
Yeah.
supposedly anyway.
Interesting. Yeah, it'd be
Cool.
interesting to know, but it just felt maybe it happened and they thought, oh, that's good, and
Yeah, if
CGI'd it the rest in.
any of the Daggers crew end up watching this, just let us know.
Oh, wait a minute, I decided to just Google this and something just popped up then. What did that say? I'm trying to find it now. Apparently, it snowed so early in October that it caught the filmmakers by surprise, and they had already started filming. They decided to change the script of the movie so it would appear as almost as if this epic battle began during the fall and ended during the winter. And
Yeah, I think it's
okay,
a really fucking cool
so
sequence.
there was some real, yeah. I thought the idea of it was really cool, but it just didn't look great. So there was some real snow, but I still think, oh well,
But
it's
you're
very
still
obvious. There's a lot of CGI in it.
you're still convinced
Again,
that
it was another one of those little things in the moment where I just got pulled out of the immersion and the epicness of that moment, and it just, yeah, I thought, oh god, that's bad. And just so I noticedly saw it, I wouldn't say the film's crap because of the snow, of course. It's just, this we were just talking about CGI, and it was just a weird bit of snow.
yeah, I mean that's fair enough. I know you thought some of the action sequences didn't look quite genuine as well.
Well, I said at first, yeah, because I was expecting this big martial arts action film, and then all of the action scenes at the moment just felt like even watching it more of a dance than action. Like you could always tell it was too much that it wasn't genuine. And I'm not saying it should be anything like a John Wick, but when in those action sequences, like it's fun on action and fighting and stuff
Yeah,
like
it's
that, and
not
it's
like
all.
brutal action in this. It's like
But then, yeah, then it just sort of felt a bit too much and felt like a dance. And I think, again, sprinkled in with the few of the other things I've said, just pulled me out of the
but
immersion a bit
then
because it didn't feel.
for a good portion of the film, it all is fake though, isn't it? Like even when
Yeah,
he's
again, that's
shooting the
it. Another
arrows.
twist. Yeah, yeah, he's not trying to kill him at that point. But I don't know, even later on, it felt a bit weird. And he shoots those 4 arrows at the 4 around the girl, May. All at different times, and somehow they all meet up on travel and hit their targets all at the same time. That was all a bit weird.
Yeah, I mean
Again, another
that's
moment,
what's
a sprinkled moment of that was a bit weird. But again, I know it's the fantasy thing, and I just hadn't got round to it because I wasn't expecting fantasy. I think that might have been one of the first hints of the fantasy
yeah,
at that point.
definitely.
But there were some moments that were done that were really cool, like when they were in the bamboo forest and all the troops and are in the bamboo and they're all jumping along the bamboo and flying across and they're chasing them down. You know, it looks cool. It looks spectacular. You know, like, it's spectacular. And it wasn't too fantasy when that was moment happening, but yeah, there were still some really good moments. But it struggled to sit right with me on this first viewing of the film.
See, one of the things that I like about this film, like more than anything, but you completely disagree with me on this, is I think that this film is all about perceived power dynamics, where I would say that for a majority of the film, if not like the entirety of the film, either Leo or Jin think they have control over May at different points, but in reality, I would say for like even at the end when she has full control over what's happening in that final moment, like she is always in control. But you don't believe that Jin has any sort of notion of control over her, do you?
No, well, I don't feel like he feels like he's got power over her at all. I don't feel like any of them did really. Yeah, the first scene in the brothel, yeah, he's putting on an act there. It's not him genuinely having power over her. That is part of the plan to get arrested to trigger the next series of events. So yeah, that wasn't really a power dynamic. I don't know.
Well,
Yeah,
no. Then
feel...
that bit at the beginning when he's in the brothel, he's genuinely just an arsehole in that scene. They only actually talk
Well, he's
about
acting, isn't it?
no, because they don't start talking about the plan until she's in the prison.
No, they were talking before they went, didn't they? They were talking before they went, and that there's a girl there, and they wanted to find out more information about her and go and see it. And he was like, "Well, you know me, I'm a player," and they wanted to.
But when she's in the prison, that's when they actually like, I've got an idea, sort of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like, but he's not going there to have a good time and to, you know. Like he was trying to rape her.
I mean,
it was all part of the plan in that moment to get her out. And
I would dispute that.
I don't know. Maybe I need to revisit that bit because
I would dispute the whole thing about Jin not having any sort of idea, because when he first rescues her or whatever, he obviously has. I think he believes he has power over the situation, because when he has the meeting with Leo, Leo's like, "You need to be careful. Like, she's cunning. Like, you," and he's like, "Don't worry, I've got it all under control." Like, he believes that he's got the upper hand in the whole situation, but the reality is that she's tricking him all along, but he doesn't know that. So, like, she uses his
but I don't
perception.
think he feels like he's got power over her, or he's tried to assert power over her. I think he's just trying to, and at that point, he's getting some actual interest in May as well. He's just trying to push Leo back down. I feel that's more of a trying to, if anything, not that it is trying to be more assertive to Leo rather than he thinks he is
if I concede that, that maybe like there is a different side to Jin that I have not seen. Definitely, Leo is like throughout the entire film is trying to control everyone, like to do what he wants, and it's even like he obviously forces like his thoughts on May when they do that initial meeting, and then she remembers that when she's having the whole like having fun time in the field, and she's like crying because she has this like sense of loyalty to him, but he sort of like abusively like inputs that like ideal onto her. He's like, you like him, but I've done everything for you, sort of thing. Like he's very much like the abusive like relationship type.
Yeah, it sort of was, but he was also sort of right. It's like he loves her, doesn't want something bad to happen to her, and if she's gonna let this guy go or try and be with him, she's gonna get killed. He knows that, so it's almost if she falls down that road and falls
well, I mean, she's always gonna get killed because he's gonna die. Fucking throws a thing at her.
Yeah, well, it all builds up and gets a bit of out of control at that point. At that point, when she's
A
let him
bit out
go,
of
he's
control.
furious, and yeah, I feel throughout the whole film, he's
Oh yeah,
you
he's
know, it's
bubbling.
like a
He's
boiling
absolutely.
kettle, and as he gets to the end, that's when the kettle blows and he's hit the
It's just
top
the way you
point. And
describe it. Oh, he got a bit out of control. He fucking threw a knife in her heart, basically.
Wait, I don't mean a bit out of control. I meant out of control. Okay, fair enough. But yeah, he lost it at the end there. But through everything building up, but I don't think, yeah, earlier him didn't think he would be doing that later on. It as a sequence of events led him to that moment
Yeah,
in the right way.
that's fair. I'll concede
Yeah,
a
if you
little
if
bit.
you genuinely love someone and you've been with them for years and then you've been separated, you finally get back, and then through your own sort of plan, you're sort of losing her, and she's falling in love with this other guy.
Are they actually
And
together
she's
though?
going to
So
get
like,
killed for it.
I
I know
because
it's a yeah.
I got the vibe that like he'd protected her for like all of their like childhood life, sort of like that sort of vibe. But I always got the vibe that it was more she didn't fully reciprocate it. She just sort of she loved him for what he'd done for her and how he cared for her, but she didn't love him like she loves Jin. Whereas he full on like he was all about her. Like that's the vibe I get. I don't think that. I didn't get the vibe that they were like together and then he'd gone off for 3 years and whatnot. I didn't get that.
Yeah, yeah. That's it. That's the
because
problem.
it
I've probably been
because
about the depth of character
because it makes sense
and
that
stuff
she would
because we don't know
cry.
too much about them.
It would make sense that she cries in the field because she wants to leave, but she feels like she can't because she's like beholden to him for out of loyalty.
But
But
does she feel she's beholden to him out of loyalty, or is it because she knows secretly she's betraying him and doesn't, and she knows it's only going to end one way? Maybe she's falling in love, and she knows it can't work because
I
he's
think
about to get killed, and they get to the end,
I think she
and it's
loves
nothing about
both
Leo.
of them in different ways for sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But then the crying in the field could have just been just knowing this
See
can't work because
see
she's leading him down a bad path,
you
and
say there's
knowing at
not
the
much.
end she's going to have to kill him.
You say there's not much depth to it, but you sort of you create
Look, the
your own depth
story's
to these
great.
characters.
The story's fantastic, but I just feel the characters don't have that much depth. And the persons, I feel like they're just living the story. But I don't know.
I just feel like
I think the story has loads of depth, but the characters themselves just felt a bit generic.
yeah, generic, but I think there's definitely something to them for us to be able to sit here and talk about them for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, but I think that's more the story that I'm talking about, because again, I think the story's fantastic.
But this is where we'll disagree because I would say that the characters make the story in this.
Oh no, I feel the story and the plot is top notch, and I don't like love a character. Like if I watch a show like Succession, the story's great, but I love the characters so much. Like they're fantastic, and there's so
See,
they're
I'm
these. I feel
completely
like
the
there's
opposite.
nothing. They're just the pawns in
I'm
the
completely
story's the
the
main thing.
opposite with Succession. It's a fantastic show, but the only reason it's fantastic is the characters. The actual like plot running through the show is as bog standard as it comes. It's the characters for me that actually make that show worthwhile.
We're gonna worry. We're gonna see. You're making me really want to come out and defend it, but I'm worried about turning this into a Succession pod. But it's great. And
We'll
if you
do a
haven't seen
special.
Succession, just be quiet for 5 seconds, like mute it or something, because the story, with the dad popping his clogs and stuff, the way it happens, and it's just so like in reality and bound in reality, and that you think the story's going one way, and they're trying to get their business and get the deal and competing with their dad, and all of a sudden, bang, he's gone. The whole dynamic changes. Then they're at the wake, and you can see they're all
I don't
moving
know.
out their pawns in a chessboard to how they're going to get
Maybe
what
I've
they
just
want. And
watched so many
I
of
don't know.
those type of shows over the years that it's not as unique to me. Maybe that's where I'm at, but I still think it's a great show because
Again,
of the
it's not
characters.
always about being unique. It's about about how well it's done and how you deliver it. So, yeah, it's not. But
Yeah,
anyway,
and
let's move on.
like,
If we get too far, we're going to have to just have a random TV episode and we talk about
so
Succession.
okay, fair enough.
So,
So, what
yeah.
did you like the most about this?
Well, that's it. The plot, the story. It was so well done, and the twists and turns that came up. Some I was kind of expecting, but they blinded me from the twist. And when they came fast. She wasn't blind. Okay, kind of was expecting that one, but then she was tricking him the whole time, was taking him, and then Leo comes in and he's captured. He's like, "Oh no, you've been captured." He's like, "Oh yeah, bang!" It turns out he was against you all along, and he was a spy. And then he goes out and he's in a relationship with May, and they had a thing. And then you're thinking, "Oh shit!" So this is a triangle, love triangle. Oh, it's even more complicated. And then you think about the earlier scenes, and so it's all about the twist of the story, the way they delivered it and built the story along, and the twists weren't like, look what we did, we're so clever. Twist, it was just, that's the story, that's what happened. They're not trying to be like, oh, look what we did, we're so clever. I just loved the story and direction, and of course the music, soundtrack I think was beautiful. Some of the shots used in the film were beautiful. It's a beautiful setting. I love feudal Asia. It's beautiful, Japan in particular, China, but it's all beautiful. But yeah, the story in itself was great. What about you?
Well, I mean, for me, I love the sequences in the film more than anything. Really, like, I feel like we talked about the Echo game, but that's one of my favorite scenes in a film ever. And I also think like the ending where like we talked about where it goes from like autumn to winter or whatever, and it just, for me, it's sad in a way because I feel like if someone was able to do proper work on that, like in 4K, that would probably go on like a top 10 of like fucking awesome scenes, because it's just like the way, whether it was accidental or not, like the way it comes across on cameras is so cool.
Yeah. But I think it comes across well, but because it looks a bit iffy, and the CGI was iffy, I don't know. It just didn't somehow. Okay, no, you love this film, and I know you love this film, so I want you to tell me, just out of my own interest, what's the thing you dislike the most about the film? Like, I feel that's the thing that interests me. Because you love this film, you can't stop loving it, and you find it.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like I'm hurting one of your children when I say something I don't like about it.
I remember when this film came out, I didn't get to go to the cinema to see this, obviously, because it was like 2003. But I made my mum go and buy it for me on DVD. So you can imagine, like, I've loved this film for 20 years. And, like, I find it really hard to, like, really settle on something that I could say that I completely dislike. But I think the one criticism I'd make, besides, obviously, you've highlighted the kissing thing now, so that's probably ruined the film for me now. But like, the one thing I think could be a lot better is the reveal of Leo as a member of the House of Flying Daggers. I feel like it does come out of nowhere, but at the same time, as we've been talking, there are drops of like little bits, tidbits throughout the film that hint to it. But I think as a first time viewer, I feel like it could be perceived as something that's like a twist just for the sake of it. But
that's quite that's funny, because I find that I thought it was done brilliantly. I thought that was one of the it was at that point onwards where I started going, oh, this film's, I was on the fence. I can't, do I like it, do I not, and bouncing around in my head. From that point onwards with the twist, and especially that one, I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was brilliantly well done. It was, you don't need to be fed everything and like, oh, look how clever we are, look at this twist we come up with. It was, it's just part of the story, and
I suppose so.
it was more. To me, it made it feel less like something that was scripted, and more like something. It was just an actual story that happened. Almost, maybe, you're.
I guess I could also.
You're just rolling the dice. You're not in control.
I could also bring you back, and you're going to be like, "What?" Well, the whole thing with Jin thinking he's in control, you know, like because it takes him by surprise because he has no expectation that Leo's going to turn on him, and he thinks that
Yeah,
he's got everything sussed out, and then he's taken by surprise, like in a double hitter, really. There, because May comes
yeah,
out and she's pouring the thing, and she can see. Then the next
yeah,
minute, Leo pops up, and I just feel like possibly like when you're watching it the first time, obviously you didn't, but I just feel like you could maybe think like they've just sort of thrown that in there just to one up it a little bit. But they're all like well, there are tidbits to it throughout the film, so maybe it's not as clear cut as that. But I do think that it's probably one of the more underdeveloped bits in the
yeah. So I think that was done brilliantly because again, I love the story, but yeah, it's just I know, and I know I'm forcing you to say something you dislike the most. You love it really, but if you had to pick something,
Yeah, it's
that would
something
be it.
that like when I'm watching the film, I wouldn't pay any mind to really, but when I sit and think about it, maybe that would be a factor.
Yeah, and I feel seeing the film and thinking it through, watching it back, I really want to see if like watching Hero and watching Crouching Tiger, if my views start to change and the things I didn't like this film that sort of didn't help me connect to it in the same way you did would totally change. And maybe after watching those films and being in it, I have a different appreciation and love for it. So I'm really looking forward to now when we eventually watch Hero and we watch Crouching Tiger. That
See, the one I'm looking forward to is obviously we're going to watch Hero and Crouching Tiger, but I want us to watch Shadow, which came out in 2018, because I have not
yeah,
seen that one, and it's made by the guy who made Crouching Tiger and Hero. So, like, you're saying you want to go back and watch Hero because that came out first, just to see the progression of the director. But
yeah,
I think it'll be interesting for both of us to see how
oh
50,
definitely.
15 years later, like, how does he approach it this time?
Well, that's the thing. I would really want to watch Hero now, and I'm almost maybe a little bit gutted. Maybe it's for the best that I saw this one second, but I feel like maybe because Hero, again, I've not, I know just about as much about that film as this film before
Mhm.
watching it. But I feel like maybe because Hero was a massive success for him and put him on the map, and the things that people liked, he maybe tried to develop those more and maybe pushed it too far in this film with the fantasy stuff and I don't know, some of the bits that didn't sit right with me. Maybe he pushed it a bit more, and that's why it didn't work as well. Or maybe in Hero, it's subtle enough that it works. So that's why I want to see Hero to see if I see that in it. But yeah, watching Shadow would be great to see what he can do with modern tech
Yeah, that was in
and all that
4K as well.
experience. Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah, we could definitely got to get Shadow included. Okay, we need to watch Hero, watch Tiger, see how my views change, and then we got to see Shadow and
I think
see it at
watching,
the end.
yeah, I think watching Daggers first is probably like a best way to go about it. To be fair, because you're seeing like the middle one first, and now you get to go back and watch Hero, and like you say, you'll watch Hero and think, like, kind of maybe embellished a bit, like in Daggers, and I much prefer this refined take. And then who knows, we could watch Shadow, and it's fucking like nuts, and
Yeah,
like it may be
maybe,
even too much for me.
maybe. But I feel like maybe with time he would have developed his craft. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm also seeing here a film called To Live that he did, the director. That's meant to be really good as well. Have you seen To Live?
I haven't, but I'll have a look at that one.
Yeah, might have to have a look at that as well. Apparently he directed that, and it's pretty good.
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
I just want to
I'm
see
up for
more of these
watching
films.
any Asian film. Get it on. I'm all for it.
All right, well, we'll definitely have to stick that
To
on the
Live,
list.
IMDb. Let's have a peek at this. Because I
He
bet he's
he's
done
not
some
involved in
marvelous
writing
things.
it like the others, but so he's just a director. But apparently,
I've
it's well rated.
raised a family and survived difficult cultural changes during 1940s to 1970s China. So it sounds like a completely different genre, which
Oh
could be
yeah,
interesting.
and I obviously take it with a pinch of salt, but its IMDb rating is much higher than the others.
Clint Eastwood's
8.3
personal
high.
favourite of the entries at the '94 Cannes
Ooh,
Film Festival, Well, I mean, if Clint says it's a good film, I mean, you got to give the money's due. I mean, he's 95 and he's making films still. He knows what he's about.
Oh, there you go. Maybe we could both stick that on the list
Yeah,
at some point down the line.
that'll be on the list for sure. That one.
Nice to have some films on there where we're both going in blind.
Absolutely.
And maybe if they exist out there, I'll find a few films to show you at some point that you haven't seen, if that's possible.
Well, I mean, I know there's one or two that we've got possibly down the line.
Oh, that's one I can't believe you haven't seen it. I can't wait for us to watch it.
Yeah,
But,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Well, on that note, I think we've covered everything we want to cover here.
Yeah, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of people out there thinking this fucking idiot doesn't know what he's talking about. But I'm looking forward to the journey of watching Hero and watching Crouching Tiger and seeing how my views and thoughts change as I see more of these films. And I'd love to revisit this film then and see, and knowing the twists as well, seeing if my appreciation grows. But yeah, there's things that were a bit of hit, some things that are a massive hit for me and some things that are a bit of a miss. But I really enjoyed it still.
Well, on that note, we'll see you in the next one.
See you in the next one. Roll the credits.